Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance and more, and Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
Hey everybody, welcome to Public Access America's Just the Tip. Here's another little tip that'll help everybody creating better, more accessible social media content. Limit the use of special characters such as Unicode characters or ASCII art. ASCII art is not accessible using a screen reader. Text art, also called ASCII art or keyboard art, is a copy-pastable digital art form about making text pictures with text symbols. Shapes formed by special characters, they can't be communicated using assistive technologies. So if you choose to use ASCII art, use an image or a screenshot of the ASCII art and include an image description, alt text.
It's time now for something positive.
We might be headed to the promised land,
Speaking the truth
and finding our external liberty once we internally liberate ourselves.
Problem can only be solved when there is a kind of coalition of conscience.
Because that is how it works. This is the beginning, it is not the finale, and that's why we're here, and that's why we rally.
We've got to be that creative minority.
Find a way to get in the way. I got in trouble. It was good trouble. It was necessary trouble.
Frankly, I know we've got to do something.
Nobody's here either.
Yeah, I'm kids are with their dad.
Nice.
Debbie's fun and adventure, and I'm just here at home after a very, very long week.
Well, all right. We have a packed note, and as usual, on Friday I had nothing in my note, and then Saturday nothing in my note, and this morning I just had a bunch of thoughts, so I typed them all out and. Shit, man, I did not expect all that. So how are you? I'm sorry. Hey, everybody, welcome to Public Access America. My name's Jason. His name's Jeffrey, and we get together once a week to talk about the week. And this week is packed full of stuff. And there's an interesting topic that hits our Venn diagram right in the sweet spot. So, but I want to find out how you're doing. How is everything? I hate starting a conversation before I know that with somebody, you know?
It's honestly, this week has been absolutely insane. I've just been so busy, and it is. I've been trying to explain to a couple of people. It's like I don't have words. Just like this week, for whatever reason, everything decided to hit the fan all at once.
Yeah, be the pinball.
Yeah, pretty much. So, between work and personal, and like I was up till pretty much midnight, and then getting up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's just like, so yesterday, even though it was like, I got to do some stuff fun, this was all stuff that was like planned out weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I ended up like just passing out on my couch last night for a little bit, and then it's like, oh crap, I should probably get up and go to bed and all that other fun stuff. And my decision to go to sleep has given me this lovely crick in the neck that feels really great today. So It's like, gotta love that part. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do something responsible, and I'm gonna actually go to bed on time like I normally should. And they're like, body's like, cool, you get pain.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. You know what?
Yeah,
All right,
I get
fine.
it. I was laying there last night and I was like, if I lay in this position, I'm going to wake up with a sore neck, you know? So I get that. And that welcome to age, you know, everything you do to your body when you're a teenager and in your 20s, it really starts hurting you in your late 30s, early 40s, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and I know that it's all a product of this like torn shoulder that I have. So
Fuck yeah.
that makes it all the more fun.
I'm sorry about that.
So, but my hope is that this week will change a little bit. And
in what way?
Yeah, you're right. I need to be specific about that.
Well, I mean, did you catch up? Did you catch up enough to where you might get a break between storms?
Oh hell no.
Okay.
No, it's different storms. So
fair enough.
Like I've gone from out of the hurricane and into the tornado, and I'm not entirely sure that they are two different storms at this point. They might just be the same one, and I'm just like getting tossed around, and it's like, oh well, the view over here is different. Oh wait,
right. I was married to a Filipino dude, and if every second wasn't double booked, you weren't doing enough. So I understand those storms. Everybody needs something right now. What are we gonna do? Well, everybody's gonna go to somebody else and solve it. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like I pretty much like my communication with people was so minimal this week.
Yeah.
Like even Debbie, like for example, like just didn't have enough time.
Right.
So that's one of those things. It's like I live with this person and I just didn't even have enough time to talk to him. I was like, that doesn't sucks.
That's why you really make the best of the time you have, so that when you don't have that time, you can still ride on the time that you had. And there's this prison thing. Don't yell at your bitch when she's leaving, because she'll leave and have a week of that in her head. You got to leave her happy so that she comes back. People don't plan ahead that way. They're like, I'm going to be an asshole. You're going to deal with it. I'm not going to apologize. And a week later, I'm going to come back. All's going to be forgotten. And we're going to start back where we were. And that doesn't really work long term. Like you can do that a couple times, but you can't do that as a lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Well, and I would argue that you really shouldn't do it even a couple times because, well, it's just, there's no sense in leaving people on negative stuff.
I agree. But I was trying to figure this out. Like sometimes you need to hurt people to get ahead in life, but you don't. And I think that's what I was tossing around in my head all week. Like, is there a scenario where you need to like step on somebody to get ahead and then you can fix it? You know what I mean? I just don't see a way. I don't see a reason why I would need to hurt somebody to get ahead, but I also don't have very much of a life,
I think so that's a very interesting question, honestly. So here's what I would say. I think it just depends on what your definition of hurt and what the other person's definition of hurt is.
Yeah.
Because what you might see as very rational and responsible action could actually be quite painful to the other person because of your delivery, because of it goes counter to their wants or their needs, and that's the tough part is that I think that there is a lot of unintentional hurt out there just because two people don't read the room the same way and they don't communicate the same way, and what might seem like a perfectly responsible and logical response on one person's end emotionally just feels painful and devastating on the other.
Agreed.
And that's a lesson that I've kind of learned recently. But and it's like, how do you learn from, like, how do you deal with that?
Deal with that? But more importantly, there's also these people that are looking for those triggers. Like, and I have a whole note I wanted to talk in the second hour about triggers, but there's a whole group of people that are hypersensitive to insults, and they're looking for an insult in everything you say. On the other side of you just trying to live your life, and you might hurt somebody with your delivery, that person is also hypersensitive to your response, Right.
And I think that's one of those things where it's like, it feels rough because like, I've grown up communicating a certain way my entire life. And, there's a lot that I've had to unlearn, but in the same token, there's a lot that I still have to learn in how I communicate. And each person, I think, like, it all just depends on, whether you're the kind of person where logic and reason tend to rule your brain, or if you're the kind of person where emotion and feeling is more important. And like, I think that's, personally one of my bigger downfalls is that it's not that I don't have feelings, it's that I have let logic rule my brain.
Yeah.
I'm a very analytical person, and that's just how I am.
I don't want to be a jerk about this to anyway, but in my personal experience, my over my life, my feelings and emotions have been dismissed because other people's immediate needs are there. You know what I mean? So I might be upset about something, they might be upset about something, but it's up to us to deal with them. And then, I don't really get to have an emotional response to things because I'm a rational problem solver, and other people are more emotional. So their emotional needs come before, mine, because I'm a rational person.
Which, I mean, that makes sense in that, in a lot of ways, but at the same time too, it's also lends to, it's like, when the fuck is it my turn?
Yeah. I remember seeing Alan Alda cry. And I don't know why that stuck with me, because men were always John Wayne, and then Alan Alda cried. And I was like, there's a whole nother end to the spectrum. You can't be John Wayne. You have to be a combination of John Wayne and Alan Alda, sensitive and strong. And you have to do that at the same time. And sometimes that sensitive strong means shutting up and fixing the problem and hugging somebody that has a bigger problem,
Well, and but also too, like, making sure you actually come back to that. Yeah.
It would be nice if we came back to, okay, thank you for helping me. Now, how are you doing?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is like, that's been like a story of my life for a long time. Is that I've had people in various states of disarray surround me my entire life, right. and I've had to put aside my emotions, either because, I was told that I had to, or later on in life, or I was just trained to do it. And you just learn to set aside your emotions, go, well, yeah, we'll deal with this later.
They don't fit into the problem solving, list, right? Emotions don't come into problem solving.
The way that I've kind of started to think about it is with that stuff is like putting all of that stuff into a refrigerator that doesn't work. The lights on, and there is a spoilage date on this, and that spoilage date is when those feelings start to become other things like anger, or sad, just uncontrollable sadness, or any number of things. So I've had to start thinking about some of that in a different way, just because, like, I always just put things away. It's like, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. Not realizing that there was, an inherent expiration date on that, and those things that I was going to deal with later, suddenly I was going to be dealing with them very directly and in a way I didn't want to.
I relate those to landmines. They're these little things that we just put out in the field so we don't have to deal with. But then when people walk up, they step on them. And then all of a sudden, they just triggered an explosion. They just stepped on an emotion that I had put off to the side to deal with other things. And then they just stepped on it like it was nothing. And I just reacted. I mean, that's like a trigger. And a trigger is like a response to past experiences or memories. You know what I mean? And it's attributed to PTSD. And I always think of PTSD as something big, major, that like the military deals with, and victims of abuse and rape and all that stuff. But I never really think that like persistent mental abuse, like just subtle stuff, can really have that effect on you and trigger you in ways that I was just triggered this weekend by something, and it threw me off, and I just was so angry and short and just not wanting to deal with anybody because I just got triggered about something that happened in my early 30s, and it was just so weird. So I had to look this up, and then I was just, how do I deal with that? So this is interesting. Do you have triggers is that how you see it? Landmines?
Um, I would say that for me, there is one specific trigger that I have, and I mean, it goes back deep into my childhood,
Right.
and I mean, when you say landmine, I'm like, yeah, I suppose you could call it a landmine if it was a button that hit a nuke that was buried underground because it
Yeah.
just like I mean, it like it's powerful. It just goes off.
Right. And I'm so rational. It really threw me off to be that like emotional, you know?
Oh, what I've been told is I just go dead behind my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like the lights are on, but the person that's in control of the vehicle is not me, and it's fair.
Yeah.
For me, it's physical abuse of women is something that I just like. I will avoid movies that have that
Me too.
because there's a trauma that's ingrained very deep in there, and I can't deal with it. That's why it's like the biggest reason I couldn't watch Game of Thrones was because there were rape scenes in it,
Right.
and things like I can't do it. I don't. To me, rape as a plot point is fucking tired. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And
There's other ways to show a male's dominance over a woman without a rape scene.
Right, and I think that unfortunately it's I'm sure that there are ways that maybe if there was some a woman who had written about it as a plot device from their perspective, and what it could do or what it has done, like I still don't know that I'd be able to watch it, but at least then it wouldn't be like, all right, we're gonna have this really tough rape scene, and this person's gonna become stronger from it. I'm like, motherfucker, I know way too many women that were raped in my lifetime, and to say that they became stronger from it is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Because some of them have legitimately struggled living a meaningful life after their incidents.
Their walls are taller, their walls are thicker, their walls are stronger, so they look stronger, but it's hollow.
Oh, and to me, it's just one of those things where it's like I can't do it.
Yeah.
But even like physical abuse, like smacking, like actually like straight up hitting.
Right.
Like, I had a couple of incidents where
I hate gaslighting, things like that.
I ended up just beating the ever loving shit out of a couple of people because they had struck their girlfriend, partner, whatever in public, and I just came unfucking corked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just not. I mean, like there was one incident where I literally had 5 people holding me down, and at one point they had 3 on top of me. I literally just grabbed one and I just fucking chucked him because I was like that straight up blackout rage like that you read about in like fucking Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And so for me it was like I've had to spend a lot of time digging because I genuinely don't want to hurt people. Like it's just not my thing. But that is something that is just there's something burned deep inside of me that I just I can't deal with it. And I don't deal with it well. And people don't get a good version of me when that happens.
I agree. But a trigger explains the reasons behind your reactions, and it's a survival response. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really interesting that you put it that way. And I don't think people, you need to hold yourself accountable to your triggers. You need to investigate them and research them, but I don't think you should like be judged on who you are when you're triggered. You know what I mean? I think is there's people that get triggered and want to stay in that moment and figure it out. And there's other people that get triggered and want to flee and isolate and examine it that way, or hide from it and not examine it. And that's the chance to examine your trigger and see where it came from and deal with it. And I like that. It's kind of like rooting out a problem. You finally found it. Let's hold on to it. But I believe in isolating personally and examining,
And I think that's one of the things about it is
you can't run from a guy beating a woman though. You just can't. You can't isolate yourself from that trigger. I'm sorry.
I mean, here's the thing: is like I can honestly say that I don't think that that's that's true, because especially if you grew up where, you know, you're a person who never had any type of power from start to finish, like if you were always, you know, if you were always the one that was beaten too, and if you were always the one that, you know, you've just never had the chance to have that kind of strength, have that kind of power.
Okay.
Like everybody's response is different.
Right.
And I think that's the tough part in this is that I don't have a flight reflex. So for me,
sorry.
So for me, you know, we always called it fight or flight, right?
Right.
Well, there's a third type that people don't know, or more people are starting to figure out, and it's freeze.
Freeze, stand your ground.
It's not even like stand your ground. No, it's literally like you have been induced to such a panic that literally you can't fight and you can't run. You are like trapped.
Okay. So
because you know, at least with stand your ground, that would be considered a fight reflex.
Okay.
But like in this case, it's like
freeze.
Straight up terror stricken, like sleep paralysis demon level. Like you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you are trapped
you get like
in your own body, and it's like a prey response almost.
Do you get a pounding heart, like a disturbed stomach, dizziness, uncontrolled shaking, no idea. Cold and sweaty palms? Those are some of the signs that this website that I'll put in the note helps to, if you're reacting to a trigger, those are some of the things you might feel.
Like, so for me, like, I wish I could say that I knew what I was feeling in that moment, but I don't. Like, I mean, like, it goes, when I say it goes black, it goes black.
So you're like
I am
the
not
Hulk,
in control.
right?
But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to compare it, it's yeah, I pretty much go Hulk.
Well, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, it's a great analogy for.
It really is for my response. For my response is actually a fairly close one.
Right.
The one that I've read about is like the one that I always compared it to is like if you read on Nordic berserkers, they would just enter a trance-like state and fight. It's like they would be dead on their feet and keep fighting, and that's pretty much how I am. Like I will have my ass just straight up kicked, and it's like I can't stop. It's like I start laughing. It's like, all right, let's go, let's fucking go. And it's like there was one time I got stabbed in the stomach, and because I caught someone trying to roofie drinks at a bar, and you know, this little bitch pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed me in the side, and I just was like, I started laughing, and you could just watch this guy like, oh shit, what did I do? And I literally just like looked down at my side and I just pull this knife out, and I just like went and I licked it right and just staring at him.
Yeah, well, what else are you gonna do? That's crunch time. You know what I mean? So
the dude literally pissed himself when he saw that. Like, he actually pissed himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have any reason for doing what I did, but like I just entered this fucking mode of like, you're dead. Even if I'm dead on my feet, you will die before I fall.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's weird, and it's like that is a real uncomfortable feeling, knowing that like I fight like that. And so that's why it's like I'm a person who likes to be in control of myself, and I would argue I have absolutely no control over myself in those moments.
Nobody that's triggered
bothers
nobody
me.
That's triggered has control. They're being triggered by something in their past and something in their present, and so you're not in any one time frame, and it makes it really difficult to keep your view of what's going on when you're in two times at once, past and present, you know?
Right. And so for me, that's been something that, you know, I've dug into that for quite a bit. And, you know, I've been told very consistently, it's like, well, do you feel bad about what you've done during those moments? And I went, no. I don't. It's like, I don't feel bad one bit, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
I was the same. I was the same way in Wrigleyville. They were picking on this guy for being gay, and I thought that was so stupid in a gay community. So I just stood up next to him because nobody else was. You know what I mean? And they were like, "What? Well, you want to?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess. Right now, I'm gay. It doesn't matter. You know, what the fuck?" And then other people stood up and they backed down, and it was just like, it was sad. But I just didn't think about getting hurt. I was just like, what are they doing to this guy? You know, and would they do it to a group of people? If they would do it to a single person, would they do it to a group of people? And so I just wanted to form that group, and I just instinctively react to things like that. Like that, what would you do show? I would kill someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and that's, and I think that's one of those things like I understand what my issue is, and, I actively work to avoid it, in terms of like stuff I watch on TV.
Yeah.
But in public, like I will apologize to people later, but
yeah,
I'm not stopping, and I don't see any reason to stop. I will say that like, especially as I've learned about the kink community, and I've learned about, there are places where, people really do live this, lifestyle where, there's a physical element to it. And you find out that there's actually consent with this. Like, this is how they get their rocks off. Like there's been a lot of me having to learn. It's like, okay, this bothers you, but this is not your problem.
Right.
These people, if two people enjoy this, that's not your problem.
Right.
You have a problem that you need to go deal with on your own, because these two people have a consenting agreement to whatever it is that they're doing.
Right. No, I agree. I agree.
And I think that's where, even I'm having to caution myself on some things. It's like, knowing that, there are people that's what they want. They want to be slapped around a bit,
right.
Out in public. They want this feeling.
Oh, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to put that on the public.
Well, here's the thing. If it were out in the general public, yeah, no, that would probably be like,
right.
Because then essentially what you're doing is you're you're being non-con about.
But there is
your kink. But there are spaces, are places and spaces where people do this, and you have to understand, like, you're walking into a space where you're going to see things that consenting adults have agreed to, and if you have a problem with it, it's you that has the problem. Right. It's not them. It's on you, and you have to deal with your own shit.
A couple like that has an agreement ahead of time, the times, places, and spaces where it's allowed, the dominance is allowed, and a lot of the submission is somebody just looking for someone to trust. And so a dom taking advantage of that in some way without pre-knowledge of the events that are about to take place, that's taking advantage of somebody. You should never be surprised as a sub, but you should anticipate. It's looking for someone to trust. It's something more than just getting hammered. Like right in the middle of the night. It's I don't that's all them. That's not me at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't vanilla shame me, and I won't fucking BDSM shame you.
Kink shame you, yeah. Right. And that's the thing, is like, even because like there's been a lot of people in the kink community that they actually will have all of these written agreements down and signed, and that way, if there are any questions about this, or some, like, for example, if something legal does pop up, they have all of these agreements in place. It's like, we are consenting adults. We have signed off on this. This is something that we fully agree to, and we don't have any problems here.
That's right.
And I mean, that's a tough one too, because imagine being a police officer who, gets called out time after time after time to a domestic abuse, and you end up coming to somebody's house where they have this agreement that, if you were in any of the 9,999 times that you probably walk up to this scenario, somebody's coming out in cuffs, and they're going to be spending the night in jail on domestic violence. But here you actually have this agreement that one person is doing something that the other person wants,
right?
And in every other scenario, this would be bad news for
or
someone.
questionable, at least. Yes.
And I think that's where, I think that's where, like, being able to learn about a lot of these things and being able to explore a lot of these things in safe spaces has, made a difference. And when I say safe space, I mean places where that these these agreements exist.
And
and
being non-judgmental to somebody that's into that gives them the space to come to you when there's something questionable. If you just abandon that person entirely because of how they live their very personal lives, they'll never be able to come to you and be rescued when it goes too far. So I like where you're coming from. It's learning. It's about learning. It's about standing back and giving someone the space to do them and also come to you if they need to,
Let's make a toast to doing more this spring. Actually, let's make two. Introducing two delicious new toasts from Dunkin'. Hummus and roasted tomato and avocado and roasted tomato. Spring it on with creamy hummus or savory avocado spread on sourdough bread topped with slow roasted, perfectly seasoned vine-ripe tomatoes. Actually, let's make a third toast to the two toasts I was just talking about. Here's to you two, tasty tomato top toasts. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Stop avoiding your erectile dysfunction issue. Peak Performance for Men is offering your best offer yet. Call today to book your free consultation and free blood flow evaluation. 1-800-210-8181. Peak Performance for Men helps over 80% of men who receive the treatment experience long-term improvement. Let the experts at Peak Performance for Men help you today. All it takes is one phone call for a free consultation. Free blood flow evaluation. Call 1-800-210-8181. That's 1-800-210-8181.
Yeah, and so that's in a lot of ways, like there's I've had to confront my own issues in various ways. This is what somebody wants. Somebody's going to get what they want, and great. That's not your problem. You need to stay the fuck out of it.
Right. There's also these men, Jeffrey, that they feel like they're better than others or more attractive or more entitled, and they will request things on the spot spontaneously with their dates. You know what I mean? Like choking is a very dangerous thing that you really need to know how to do. And that's not something you just grab a Tinder date to do without consent. You don't spring these, you don't spring these things on them, but men will try and push the boundaries further to like weed out the women. You know what? I don't know. Women will admit to things to keep a man, and a man knows that. So they will push the boundaries trying to get her to accept more. And that's the other side of it. There's this very consensual BDSM thing going on, but then there's also men that live on the gray area of that and want to be that, but don't want to take the time to know how to do it. So they pretend that they're experts and they hurt people.
To me, that's not a gray area. That's just straight up abuse.
Well, yeah, but they're using BDSM. They're living in the shadow of it to pretend that they are, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's where like the BDSM, the kink community at large, when they figure out who these people are, I mean, you're named and shamed,
right?
Because realistically, like, they all know this. It's like, these are things that will get people hurt. These are things that could get people killed. Yeah. These are things that, for some people, it's like they, the experience that they seek out is catharsis from a past event that, they're trying to work themselves through.
Right.
And the wrong person that doesn't, that isn't experienced, that doesn't know what they're doing, is going to do, at best psychological damage, and at worst, physical.
It's a trust event. It's not a love event. It's not a lust event. It's a trust event, and somebody taking advantage of that, to say, boo, surprise, we're gonna take care of this right now. That's not fair. And a lot of kids, this vanilla shaming thing is trending, and it's so weird, the different things that are happening just in sexual forums, sexual identity forums, and like kids are getting shamed for having vanilla sex. And it's like, why can't people just explore what they want. What somebody's doing today isn't what they'll be doing a year from now. It'll evolve, it'll change. They'll want to know more. They'll want to know something different. So why are we judging people for their sexual activities today? You know?
Or you know what? Maybe it won't change.
Maybe it won't.
That is who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's like, this is where that line between public education and, you know, what your parent is responsible becomes, you know, it becomes very muddy. Like, I realistically have no desire for schools to talk about, you know, BDSM, kink, or anything like that. I think that's not a forum. But at the same time too, if you have parents that don't really talk about, you know, questions as they come up. I'm not saying you need to go out of your way and be like, hey, yo, my child's going to learn about BDSM today. No, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if your kid has questions, you're going to do your best to answer them, or at least point them towards reliable resources. Because realistically, everybody is going to have a different set of desires or expectations. And that's assuming that they have any desire to know about anything sexual to begin with. Hell, your kids may not have any desire around anything sexual. And the idea that you're trying to get them to understand certain things that, you know, just ain't in their wheelhouse, it's not a very helpful thing. So to me, realistically, like, all of these conversations that come up, all of these conversations that are going to be had, like it would help if we had more places where it's like, hey, here's where you could learn about this. Hey, here's where you could learn about that. Because realistically, I never had that growing up. There's more literature that's available now. There's better online sites that talk about all of these different things now. Depending on where you're at, there are places, you know, there are people that teach classes on all these different things. You know, a lot of them are more than happy to answer questions, you know, that you may not know the answer to yourself. And I think that's one of those things where it's like, being able to help people help answer questions in a proper way.
Sure.
So that way, you know, knowledge is power. Knowing these things is powerful. And it's how you take the stigma out of everyday life for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you think about it, you know, when you look at the disabled community and you look at, you know, how much stigma there is around that, you know, what would it look like if, you know, you had a place or a forum where, you know, any number of disabled people could sit down and have conversations, and, you know, kids had questions, if people had questions, they could either A, watch these, you know, specific videos, or B, they would be able to go and talk with people about what their experience is. Having that knowledge base there tends to make a difference. But the more you push something into the shadows, the riskier it becomes. I mean, that doesn't matter what it is. I mean, unfortunately, you'll see the same thing with abortion in you know, Republican leaning states. You know, it's going to be no different. You know, the more you push something into the shadows, the less safe it is.
The thing about any of it is it's consensual. LGBTIA is consensual. Everything about that, every term in there is about a consensual activity, which is why bestiality and pedophilia don't fit into it, because they're not consensual. And that's the difference here. I mean, if somebody wants to learn about something, that's fine if it's consensual. I mean, bestiality, if you're going to have sex with a child, if you're going to have sex you know, with an animal, that should be pushed to the shadows. I don't think you should be doing that. It's not a consensual act, and I think you should seek help for that. You know what I mean? But the LGBTIA thing, I don't think should be in the shadows. Right. I think if a question comes up anywhere, anytime, we need to build parents that can calmly answer that question instead of reacting negatively to stereotypes they think fit into the class that's being questioned. You know what I mean?
There was a really good data point that got put out about how some people view the prevalence of certain topics. So I think this is a really interesting poll.
Are we covering the wrong stuff? Should we be covering other things? You have data that you're not sharing with us?
You know, well, It's one of those public polls, so I inherently have a little bit of distrust in it as it is.
Sure.
But essentially what they did was they polled conservatives about how prevalent they think something is versus reality where it is. And so, like, for example, one of the biggest ones was like, how many people, what percentage of the population do they think is trans? And in this specific polling group, they answered something like, oh, it was something ridiculous, like 40% or something like that. They thought
2.5.
They thought like no, it was 20%. They thought 20% of the population would consider themselves trans.
Wow.
When the reality was, it was more like 1%.
Yeah.
And even then, I was like, really, 1%? That seems kind of high, but
Well, if you take into account people that have transitioned and people that are considering to transition, I thought the number was closer to 2.5. But still, that's I don't know.
And it's perception. It's all about perception. Like, for example, if you're constantly being told about, all these different these different anti-trans laws and all these different viewpoints, you would think that it really is a huge problem. You would think that, oh my God, they're just out there, snipping and snapping genders out there, and this is
right.
But reality is like, there might not be a trans person within 3 counties of you.
That's right.
Depending on where you're at, and it's not an issue.
I mean, 1% of 350 million is 35, right? 350, 3,500. One of those, and it's a very small number.
Yeah, 1% would be, so if you had 350 million, 10% would be 35 million. 1%, 3.5 million. And it's like, maybe there's 3.5 million people that would consider themselves trans in the US, maybe. But that's to me, I'm like, I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Right.
I don't imagine it being 10 million people in the US, but I that's hard to say. Like, I don't have a data point to go off of.
I just think if you're thinking about transitioning, you should be allowed to do that, and that person is totally separate from somebody that's actually saving their money and actively pursuing it. So there's a big difference to me between people that are all right with considering it for them. Like, I'm not going to lie, I've gotten high and thought about being transitioning. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but I've put thought into it, and I think children need to have the right to think, am I transgender? And maybe take a month thinking about it. Maybe I think they should have the right to think about all that stuff, but I don't know how you put those people in the same box as people that are actively having surgery and transitioning and on hormones. Like, I don't know what that number represents. And I just think they should all be free to do it and think about it.
Well, and then you have questions like, for example, what about people who are born intersex and were assigned a gender, from their doctor?
Right.
I mean, technically, in a lot of cases, like in some cases, they're considered trans, and it's like, I don't know that I feel good about that decision.
Well, it's such an instant decision by the doctor. Like, oop, boom, done. Like, and somebody has to live their whole life because one guy took a guess. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And I think you've seen more power come back to the fact that, parents are allowing their children to live as intersex until they go through puberty and then figure out who the fuck they actually are. Yeah. Because, maybe they're male and that's the way that they want to go. Maybe they're female, that's the way they want to go. Maybe they're neither, maybe they're non-binary, and that's perfectly, but you end up having a group of people who got assigned because, well, I had to look like mom or I had to look like dad. And then they're sitting there later on in life going, why do I feel more like dad but look like mom?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And you've completely invalidated these people's lives and experiences. And I think that, this is about the depth of the amount of knowledge I have. And I think it would be really interesting to have that conversation with somebody who is or was intersex and find out, from their experience, what their life has looked like, because it's very hard to be able to sit down and fuck, it's hard for me to sit down and figure out how I'm going to deal with my life today, let alone have to decide, whether or not somebody's going to be male or female presenting for the rest of their fucking life, or until they're like, why the fuck do I feel why does this feel really wrong?
Well, I had a friend, Lexi, she was on the show, and her story, it was really easy. She knew she wasn't straight, so she thought she was gay. And then once she was gay, she thought, I'm not gay, I'm bisexual. And then when she became bisexual when she was 17, she was like, I'm not bisexual, I might be pansexual. And then that's what she was. And it's like, if we go through our journeys with our passport being stamped with everything that we've considered or questioned, it would be full. And that's how it should be. I feel sorry for the person that just has one stamp in their passport. I'm straight. That's it. Like, you never had a college party where you got drunk and just thought about it. You know what I mean? Like, it must be nice to be that secure. I've always known I'm straight, but I've always given myself the space to consider other options,
Right. And for me, like, growing up, it was really hard because, like, I knew so many women in so many different towns, but I had no girlfriends. Like, and that's when and it's only been in my adult life that I figured out, it's like, oh, it's not, I was like, at one point I was like, maybe I'm gay or something.
Right.
No, it turns out I'm definitely not gay. I'm not gay, so I'm gayish. But
I get it. But you have the space to figure that out. You had the space to figure that. There wasn't somebody over your head going, are you straight? Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you gay? And that's what I feel like society is doing to every kid in Florida. Like, are you straight? Are you gay? Don't talk about it. Are you straight? Are you gay? Because we want to know whether we should get rid of you or sterilize you or something. We want to know, but don't talk about it. Are you? I don't want to know. Are you? And that sucks. Like, I don't care.
Fucking thing.
My friend Sherry's daughter was like, I think I'm trans. And Sherry was like, what do I do? And I was like, nothing. Let her explore it. If she starts saving money to transition, then you need to know whether you need to support that or have further conversations. But until then, let her decide every day who and what she wants to be,
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, it's tough because, like, you have to allow them to explore that, but you also have to, there's also some direction that you need to be able to give a person in order to, say, hey, here are some resources that you can potentially read up on. Here are some resources that you can talk to. Here are any number of different things where it's like you can have these conversations and figure out what it is that you're, who a person really is, and it's.
Clear minds make better choices, right? And if you give somebody the space to dwell on it and ponder it, they'll do what's best for them. But if you're constantly in their ear, you'll never know if what they're doing is because of what you told them to do or if what they wanted to do. And I don't understand, like, somebody could be 40 and be told they're straight their whole life and then realize, whoa, that girl's hot too. Maybe I'm, and maybe the whole time they just never had the space to explore anything. And so they're constantly pushed in one direction or another to buck the system. I don't want to be what you think I am, so I'm the opposite. You're just rebelling. My mom loved country music. I loved metal music because she loved country music. Now I can relate to some of the country music she listened to, but no. So if my mom was saying, Jason, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, then I would have rebelled against that naturally, and I would have never known what I was, And
that's part of where it's like some of this stuff, it's like it's not your fucking business, like, and I mean, even though, like, I have kids under my roof, like, it's not my fucking business in a lot of ways. It's like, I've told my kids, it's like, look, if you ever decide to date anybody, as long as they're not an asshole, I don't give a shit who it is.
Right.
That's the one thing that I will say. It goes above and beyond any gender, any sexuality, any orientation, anything. There are assholes abound everywhere.
That's right.
They're in every section of, humanity. And, abusers exist no matter what side of the, what die you roll. Especially on a 20-sided die, they're assholes bound, and it's not, who your child loves, who a person loves, not your business unless there's some type of consent issue involved, or they're an asshole.
Yeah. But the only way they're going to stay stuck with that isolating asshole abuser is if you abandon them and judge them for the way they're living. Like, a woman could go and have a boyfriend, get punched in the face, have nowhere to turn to, and be forced into that situation. Or she could get punched in the face, run to her mom, and her mom could be like, I'm here, And that's the difference. That's why teenagers run away, is because their parents are like, do it my way or leave. And they leave. And they end up in some really horrible situations, Sex trafficking is real. And a lot of it just goes on in the United States, based in the United States. It's not like some international conspiracy like Taken. A lot of it is just vulnerable people going to inner city areas because that's where you can survive and be homeless, and they get taken advantage of, and then we judge them for being homeless and confused, and we wonder why they are, It
is very easy to spiral downward in all of this, or you present knowledge, you present expertise, and you empower people, and magically some of the stuff works itself out.
That's true.
I mean, it's not magic. I mean, that's what happens when you have a bunch of knowledge available to you. You end up with informed decisions. You end up with people taking their time. Sure, there's always going to be some rush to be like, oh, I'm going to make a decision, and in reality, it's like especially with therapists that focus on sexuality, they're going to be the ones going, no, we're not rushing this.
Yeah, nothing's permanent. We all want to put a permanence on things so we can move on to other things, but life is jello, and it's always going to squish and squish. You know what I mean? Nothing is going to be how it is. When you put a stamp on something, that's God's way of saying, guess what? I'm going to make you question that. That's what. So first thing, if you're triggered, is acknowledge your feelings, and then understand that you need some space, and then keep an open mind. Maybe it's not all about you. And then if you're feeling negativity, emotions, practice positive actions. So when you're feeling negative, try and do things that make you feel better. Like when I feel that way, I do chores, I clean, I cook, I do stuff like that to make myself more manageable, my life more manageable. Okay. I wanted to wrap up on some of the trigger stuff because that's where we kind of started.
You're right. We just kind of went that direction.
So create positive memories from positive experiences. And I like that one because that's something I call recording over the VCR tape. You know what I mean? Like life is a VCR tape or a cassette tape, and you can just record new memories over the bad ones, And I like to do that. And I think that's the best way of helping your triggers. You're always going to be triggered to some extent by something from your past, but if you can relate it to more positive than more negative, you'll feel less about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I like that. There was somebody on Twitter that apologized for their depressed tweets. And they were like, I'm really so sorry for showing everybody my depression. And I was like, no, I thank you for doing it, because that's the only way you're going to get some great advice. And I told them to listen to this live stream. We'd be talking about triggers and some personal experience and some professional website advice. And I told them to use the Earkick app as well. And I'm going to tell everybody to use the Earkick app because that's how you can recognize triggers. And so my advice would be to go in there when you're triggered and just put some information, some quick information, just the day, the time, and what happened, and then go away. And then come back and fill it out as you think about it. You know what I mean? And just keep doing that. It's hard because when you want to recognize triggers, you're going to see them all at once because you're going to be seeing everything. And it's tough. It's overwhelming. You got to pick one and record it. And pick one and record it, even if you have to go back a month later and analyze all of them, but record in the moment everything that's happening and then go back and analyze it. And that's why I love the Earkick app.
Yeah. And important, and that's the other thing too, is that, that in the moment insight that you can then
Mhm.
look at from 30,000 feet when you're feeling better
Yeah.
is really important.
Well, what I do is I write myself a note when I'm in the moment, and this note will be 13 paragraphs long. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, that's not exactly how it was. And I'll revise it. And then I'll revise it and add things. And I'll be like, what did I originally have? Like, what was the original issue? Because I've examined it so much and changed it with my perceptions to normalize it that I forget what the original thing was. So I think we all want to fix immediately, but we need to take the baby steps and then the baby steps. And then you'll find if you prepare for tomorrow today, tomorrow you'll be preparing for the next day and you'll have a good day. You can't keep putting things off for the next day and then wondering why your day's full of crap.
Right. No, that's absolutely the truth.
Yeah, it is. I like that. I did want to say, we're just a podcast. I'll end on this. I was going to have an opening statement, but I'm going to use a closing statement and say, we're just a podcast. And if you don't believe, like, a lot of people have they're told what to think already. They have their mindset, and we hurt their heads that way by having an open conversation that isn't restricted to politics or views. And I think it hurts some people's heads. And if that does that, you can ignore us. That's fine. We don't get a lot of hate. Nobody really hates us. You know what I mean? But we're not here to do that. We're not here for a view. We're here to have other views. And if you appreciate people having a voice like this, then go ahead and subscribe on YouTube or Red Circle or anywhere you find your favorite podcast. We're just trying to do something new, have open conversations. We don't have an agenda. We don't have sponsors. We don't have people that tell us what we're supposed to talk about. And I think that's really important.
What we're not supposed to talk about.
Right. And I think that's really important. And I think it's an important thing in the world. And I think podcasts are important in that way, but I don't think others cover the way we do. I think we're unique in the way we do what we do. I haven't found another Well, there's a podcast, Audio Pong, which I think is our Bizarro brothers. They both have these amazing voices, and they talk about stuff like we do, but they don't generally have political views. So hopefully I'll get them on the show, but I really do respect those shows. And I was on the Loner podcast, and the audio was corrupted because we talked for 3.5 hours. So we're going to have to re-record. So, and then Unsubscribe came out with a new episode, and I love Kai, so go check them out.
Absolutely.
Kai sent me a message and she's like, I love Joy Oladokum. And because I sent her a Song Exploder episode, and I was like, I love this person. I bought the album. I'm like, I can't stop listening to it. And then she sent me a message, I'm going to see Joy Oladokum. And I was like, she's like, I'm just obsessed with her. And I was like, me too. I actually, before I send you a message, I listened to Joy Oladokum just to have a nice positive view on life. What kind of music what kind of music gets you motivated?
Define motivated, because there's a different.
What music would pull you out of a trigger event? How about that? Let's end on that. What kind of music? Joy Oladokum would do that for me. What would?
I honestly, sound goes out the window for me during a trigger event.
Okay.
There's nothing there. I would say my motivation, it just depends. If I want energy, it's death metal. If I want to focus, it's lo-fi hip hop.
I like lo-fi hip hop. All right, I'm good with that.
I don't know why, but it got me through my master's program, and it's there's just something about it. When I have to get something done, throw that on, the world melts away around me, and it's just enough for my brain to be all right, you're entertained over here, focus. And it's I can just move mountains.
I like that. That is a great idea, because it's just enough to beat in your head, but not enough to where a lyric will catch you and then you have to fucking listen to the lyrics,
Well, and especially where I'm a drummer. This happened last weekend where I found this song. I was going through Instagram, and there was somebody had this song as part of the reel, and we end up looking it up. And, listen to the song for a couple minutes, and I've already got the beat figured out, and I'm sitting there just drumming it. And Debbie's like, I fucking hate your rhythm. And I went, what? I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, you can listen to a song and you can immediately recreate the beat, and you create it in perfect time every single time.
I love that.
I'm like, yep, I can do that. It's like, you're just sitting there and drumming it with your fingers, and I know exactly what song it is. I'm like,
that's awesome.
I'm a drummer. And so, like, for me, that's, I think, why I like lo-fi hip-hop is like, because I like drum beats, and, something that has a little bit of music with it. So it just gives me this, like, tempo, this rhythm for how I'm going to be working on my stuff. And so I can just kind of sit there and I just crank my stuff out, and I've just got, I've got this internal metronome going while I'm sitting there working on stuff. And so it's something that's really been great for me.
Okay. I like that. Thank you for listening to Public Access America. Tune in on Thursday for our next episode, which we're about to talk about right now. But guess what? You don't get to hear it because you're a podcaster, not a live streamer.
To those who would tear the world down, we will defeat you. This is our moment. This is our time. To those who seek peace and security, we support you. Yes, we can. And to all those who have wondered if America's beacon still burns as bright, tonight we prove once more that the true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals, democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbow. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life.
Ask not.
Yes, we can.
What your country can do for you.
I have a dream.
Ask what you can do for your country.
I, poor little children,
yes, we can.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression.
In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Welcome to Public Access America.
Yes, we can.
Sunday live streams on YouTube.
I wanted to run out of that tunnel for my dad.
On Twitter.
What?
Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Smart Radio Public, and Spotify.
Yes, we can.
Public Access America. History in the making. Making history in the making.
Stop avoiding your erectile dysfunction issue. Peak Performance for Men is offering your best offer yet. Call today to book your free consultation and free blood flow evaluation. 1-800-210-8181. Peak Performance for Men helps over 80% of men who receive the treatment experience long-term improvement. Let the experts at Peak Performance for Men help you today. All it takes is one phone call for a free consultation, free blood flow evaluation. Call 1-800-210-8181. That's 1-800-210-8181.
Drew and Jonathan Scott here to tell you that with the American Family Insurance Home Quote tool, you can easily design a customized policy for your dream home right from the comfort of your couch.
And fun paint fact, there are over 150 shades of white, like Hello White, Fluffy Bunny, Eggshell.
They get it. Explore the AmFam Home Quote tool at amfam.com/home to learn more about your policy coverage options. American Family Insurance. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly.
American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin. Products not available in every state.